Hello, let's do another video today. Why not? As much as I love music now, I realized my true entry point is metal. And right now, I vibe on all kinds of music. I noticed that when I was talking to friends of mine because it was very peculiar as a kid. But I actually, like, when a song is playing that I liked, I'd stop and enjoy it instead of just have it as a background thing. And then I add rejection of society and rebellion, which in turn became a movement within society. And here I remember a book, I think it was called Hairstyles of the Down. And my friend lent me that book because me and him were having conversations about society one day. Okay, so as much as I love music now, I realized my entry point is metal. And so the funny thing about the book Hairstyles of the Down is because the guy who started listening to the book was written about a character. That character listened to metal music. And basically, the reason he listened to metal music because it kind of allows you to explore your own uniqueness, or maybe just kind of like fuck you society. That's what metal is. It's loud, it's grungy, and it still finds all the music principles in it. Finds harmony, and mainly most of its words are kind of like, "Why are you doing this to me?" kind of shit. Yeah. So metal basically stands for rejection of society and rebellion, right? And that's basically like metal came about, uh, I think mid 70s, early 80s, when basically music went from like the cliche 50s to basically blues, and that's where jazz started kind of like becoming a thing. But blues split the 50s, 60s music, whatever created rock, split in two directions. One was popular music, which was the simple four chord songs and all that shit. And then on the other side, you have basically a shitstorm. The people that were like, fuck this shit, the extreme. And it's funny because the people that started playing metal were very much like people who studied music. They're the ones who studied classics. Most inspirations and the biggest people in those eras, in that generation, were actual classic musicians that learned in school under the pressure of like, you have to do it this way, you have to stand this way, you have to perform this way. And then when the time came for them to have their freedom, they went in the completely different direction. So, rejection of society and rebellion, a call to the individual. But that in turn became a movement within society. And it's funny because like it doesn't matter what we do, human nature will always prevail. And effectively, what I'm trying to say here, and if you're going back to the book, because the guy basically was a metalhead until he started listening to punk music, and then at one point he became very much punk. But like when you're a metalhead, you kind of like hang out with one or two metalheads. But punk in the day, you only hung out with like punk people. They were the extreme. But the fun thing about it is they became their own group, their own part of society, their own culture, effectively. So the call to individualism basically eventually was diluted by the call itself. And that's basically what I'm kind of like linking to right now. Because like when I heard a few songs the other day that I remember used to listening to and enjoying, what happened was just an extra, I guess, engagement from me. It made me kind of see how I Those are my roots. Because before that was just plain Arabic music. And again, we have popular Arabic music and we have old school Arabic music. Remember old school Arabic music? Old school music was popular in the day, but as we move progress with whatever concept we call time, it kind of shifts and changes. So I'm rejecting society, but then that rejection creates a certain loneliness. And what effectively we do is find this people that reject society the same way we do and build us a subculture under it. It in turn became a movement within society. Now, the essence of my work is literally those cultures, those details, those small groups that we can look at it from different ways, man. Like if you're moving and the wind is blowing in one direction, let's say sideways, it applies pressure, but you can still move straight. But let's say it's blowing harder and like one person rebelling versus 100. I don't want to look at it as a push because ultimately, if you're going this way and then something is kind of like pulling you in a different direction, right? Because I'm going this way and something's pulling me in this direction. The pull is not move forward and then sideways, it's directly sideways. So something is detaching from society and pulling in its direction. What happens is society kind of like starts skewing, starts moving in a different direction. For me, that's true evolution. Because if you know where you're going, then it's no longer that fun. It's no longer, it becomes very structured, very traditional. It becomes very, it lacks, what is it that I'm actually looking for? It lacks flair. I don't know the word I'm going for, but just normally, I don't know if I should say we know where we're going because planning fails miserably. The more you plan, the more your plans kind of like never see the surface. So might as well not just involve yourself in them. Let's put a couple of bullet points of the steps you need to get to your vision, and then each one of these steps kind of like shows you its difficulties and the goals you need to achieve in order to reach them. And slowly, when your vision gets clear, these three steps, the first step, when you finish the first step, the other two steps automatically change. That's how it goes. And so the effect that I'm trying to say is like, if you know the step you're taking, then chances are you're gonna be experiencing the same thing over and over again. And so when society kind of like knows what it's doing, or at the very least has become monotonous, that's the word, monotonous. Then the first thing, then anything that pulls it kind of like skews its direction. And these are the actual variables that allow us to experience something different. Because if we're going like this, we're kind of like stepping in one direction. And I don't really think it's a straight line because the line that I'm drawing right now is more of a line based on time. But if I'm doing the same thing, then I'm standing in my place. And so the more I do that, the more the society does that as a whole, let's say 1,000 people, the more people start splitting in different directions and eventually kind of like create that like movement. Like, no this way, fuck this shit, no this way, no fuck this shit, no this way. And in essence, that should kind of like stabilize or just show the weaknesses and the underlying patterns we are that we are using in order to be able to kind of like sustain ourselves. And because the universal constant has changed, then what's going on is every single time we're actually like doing the same thing, everything around us is changing. And then eventually either going to be forced to change or we're going to collapse and then change comes out of that collapse. So we're either intentionally changing or passively changing. If we're passively changing, it comes with a lot of trauma. But if we're intentionally changing, but again, like it's literally like you kind of have to reject the status quo, and you're either going to have to do that intentionally because in your reality, you go like, is this the world I want to be in? Does it make sense to me, or it doesn't? And if it doesn't, and you continue doing the same thing, then eventually it's going to force you to kind of like move. And if you're smart enough, then you kind of like allow it to do that instead of like standing still and like maintaining those traditions that people talk about. And ultimately, basically, like fucking your own self over and sabotaging yourself. And so I feel like everything kind of happens. Any change starts with a rejection now. Because technically, what we're doing is we're rebelling against whatever's not working. And we do that, we either rebel and then we change, or we change because we love change, which is a sign of rebellion. And let me end with basically, I think, what's his name? William, the guy who wrote The Old Man and the Sea, Hemingway. When you see yourself on the side of the majority, you have to take a step back and question your decisions thus far. Deep down, we're all metalheads, aren't we? I love you guys. It's a video. Ooh.